All right, guys, I screwed that up. So we're live, so I can edit this out of the podcast. But all of these live streaming get to see how I screwed up the opening.
I was getting a little bit worried, I'm not going to lie.
I don't know how to stop the video, so this is extra bonus YouTube content. Maybe I'll edit this part out.
It'll be in the extras of the DVD.
This is exactly. Well, the problem is we haven't recorded in about 6 years. So after the video ends, let's start again.
This is Titletown Sound.
If Joe Flacco is worth a 4th round pick, Antonio Brown might be worth a negative 5th round pick.
Again, I'm just a fat dude sitting on the couch, but I watch a lot of football.
I'm here to kick ass and make steaks, and I'm all out of steaks.
Year 1, he was like, all right, guys, I don't know what Dom taught you, but you need to have 11 guys on the field.
A trained orangutan could have done a better job than Ron Zones. I mean, not even well trained.
Hello, Packers fans and fans of mediocre podcasts who can't figure out their audio visual. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Titletown Town. James, why don't you take over for me?
So hello, fans of the Packers and fans of botched openings.
Yes.
Welcome to Titletown Sound. Speaking of botched openings, our host tonight, Chris Christofko, he hasn't seen his proctologist in 3 years.
Wow,
so that's a record. That was the best I could come up with on the fly. It's been a month. Cut me some slack.
I figured it out for the whole thing, and then there was. I was hurt because it was better than my podcast. I didn't feel comfortable doing that at all. I'm not going to lie. That felt very uncomfortable for me. All right, so it is the 4th of July, or the 3rd of July, 4th of July observed. So if I'd done the intro, I would have said, and now a real firecracker, James Corsmo, but I don't get to do that because I screwed it up.
And then I would have sang a full verse of Katy Perry's Firework and probably got the podcast taken off of YouTube.
I'm dressed like Katy Perry right now, so
you're just as
my hands are up here.
We've taken some time off, and that's the first thing we want to talk about. We originally were going to, podcast more often, and then a lot of things happened. The murder of George Floyd, protests, and we wanted to come on and do something. And I think in the end, we just kind of decided that it was not our time to talk. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, there was there were more pressing matters going on in the nation and in the world of that than listening to 3 goof-offs talk about bowel movements in football. So
not necessarily. Well, no, that's the order.
Yeah, no, in that order. I mean, Najee Davenport in that order. Yeah.
So as we saw what was going on, we didn't have anything to add that was a perspective that anyone needed to hear. I mean, that's also true about the Packers, but I don't know. We're somewhat entertaining.
I mean, I think there was no news, and it would have felt a bit disingenuous to come on and just kind of ignore what was happening or try to pretend that football was actually important.
But I also want to say, this, if there's any confusion to people who listen to our podcast or watch us on the YouTube channel or whatever, if there's any confusion, Black Lives Matter. And our silence wasn't because we didn't care. It was just because it wasn't our time to talk. So.
Yep, exactly. It's my opinion, and I don't know if you guys agree, but I would assume you do, that in times like this, there's a time for funny, there's a time for, merriment, and then there's a time for focusing on the real stuff. And
also sometimes there's time for certain people to be funny.
Right.
Well, it wasn't three old white guys talking about football.
Dude, I'm not old.
You're old.
Okay, I'm old.
That's cute. I've never been called old before.
I've never been called skinny.
Me either. In fact, on the census form, I just filled out fat.
So
with a PH.
They're originally going to talk about implications in the NFL, and they were kind of vague at the time, right? When we first started talking about this. And within the last 5 hours, things have gotten pretty intense. So what we're seeing right now is, or what I'm seeing, guys, is Washington's football club may be changing its name.
Possibly. I mean, it's as close as they've come in the last, since Dan Snyder took over, at least. FedEx came out and said today, look, we don't like your name. Please change it. FedEx is who owns or has the naming rights to their stadium and thus pays them a lot of money. And I believe that the contract is up fairly soon for that. So, maybe if Dan Snyder doesn't have an ethical bone in his body, maybe it'll speak to the money side of things. Who knows?
And I think that I saw somewhere that they're not going to be able to rebuild a new stadium unless they change their name.
Yeah, so weren't they planning on building on the site where RFK is right now?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, it's abandoned at this point. So I think that's where, because if you've ever been to FedEx Field, which I have, did you guys go? Have you guys been? It's the one.
Yes, but not for
I've driven by it, but I've never been inside.
No, you haven't driven by FedEx because you would
have driven by something.
It's impossible to drive by.
That was
FedEx
a dumpster
Field.
fire.
That's the problem with FedEx Field, because there's really one road in, one route. You're like in a neighborhood. There's nowhere to go, and then of course they get you for $30 for parking, and that's it. It's a terrible stadium too. But this isn't because Dan Snyder has said he wants to do it. This is because there's so much pressure. But James, we don't want to be confused here. This isn't benevolent Dan Snyder doing anything good.
Well, exactly. He hasn't done anything at all. We've heard all of the outside influences trying to come in and get him to do something. And I don't think it's completely up to him either. I'm sure there's other people involved, but I haven't heard a word from Dan Snyder about we're taking this into account. This is something that we are thinking about, and I haven't heard a word out of him. So, I mean, let's just be real fair. Call it like it is. Dan Snyder is a bad human being. So
he is.
I wouldn't, and he's bad at everything he does. So I wouldn't be shocked, if he just says, screw you, we'll go find another company that's okay with racism and they'll sponsor our stadium. I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to see how this plays out, though, because I have a feeling the NFL is going to step in very soon. Look, we're going to talk about the effect on other sports, but I don't want to make light of this, but NASCAR banned the Confederate flag. And I know a lot of people hate
Mississippi is changing their state flag.
Right. We literally have a football team in a multi-billion-dollar league named after a racial slur.
And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And you have the people who defend it by, it's not a racial slur. It's an homage to history, and no, it's a racial slur. It's absolutely a racial slur. And right. if you walked up to any Native American right now and called him that, and he didn't at least take a swing at you, you're lucky.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know how the NFL has been blind to this or just turned its back to it for so long. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that this name exists in the league. But Snyder's been really steadfast about it. I don't know. I would think that rebranding would be a great opportunity to make extra money.
You would think but
Dan Snyder is, he is who he is.
Yeah. Sometimes apparently when you have billions of dollars, you're also an asshole. I'm learning this.
Now,
sometimes.
Who knew?
Jeez. Settle down, eh?
It's the exception, not the rule.
Let's talk about the other implications for the NFL and why the hell hasn't a team signed Colin Kaepernick yet?
I don't know. I mean, I do know. I think I know. That's the stigma is always going to be there. I said it a long time ago that regardless of what happens, I don't think he's getting signed anywhere. I don't think he will.
Well, now the excuse can be he's too old or he's older and he's missed too much time.
Don't know what's happening with the coronavirus. All these are valid excuses.
Let's also talk about the implications for you're going to see a lot of players kneeling this year. And you're going to see owners who aren't going to stop it. Good. And you're going to have a lot of people saying they're going to boycott the NFL. You're going to have a lot of people who lie. That's what they do. They're going to tune in. Let's talk about the implications for sports of the coronavirus. Right? Another thing we've seen since we've been away. James, I haven't been watching a lot of news, but we'd flattened the curve. It went back, right? It's back down. We're heading toward the bottom, right? We're almost done with this.
I mean, I think it's like 2 or 3 days, and we're good to go. Yeah, we're all right. Unless you live in Florida, Texas, Arizona, Wisconsin at this point.
Florida had 10,000 new cases today. So let's talk about the implication for sports. The implication is that because we didn't have a good plan as a country, because we didn't know what the hell to do after we quarantined, we wasted that time because we're spiking again. And because of that, I think, and I want to hear what you guys think, I don't think there's a professional sports league that's going to play a game. Not until January at the earliest. I don't know. What do you think, Kev?
I agree. I mean, I just don't see how any of the logistics are ready to be put in place, could be put in place.
Right.
It just, there are people that you need in order to execute this. This isn't tennis. This isn't golf. You can't just have like a minimum skeleton crew. You can't go to the field with 24 guys.
Right.
It's just mind-boggling to me. Yes, mind-boggling to think that smart people legitimately think that the season will go on as normal. And
here's another thing. So James Hamblin asks, did you guys see Ian Desmond's statement? I'll read it, Kev, so you don't have to put your eyeballs on the screen. Ian Desmond's statement about why he's not playing in MLB this year, really powerful. I did not. So, James, tell me about it.
Extremely powerful. Extremely. It was very well written. Ian Desmond is a baseball player. He plays for the Colorado Rockies. And Major League Baseball is really trying to ramp things up. And I believe their start date is supposed to be July 31st for regular season games. And Ian Desmond, amongst a handful of other people, has decided not to participate. And he wrote out flat out his reasonings why, and it ran the gamut of the lack of minority leadership in Major League Baseball, the lack of minority ownership of teams in Major League Baseball, the lack of and really lack of even trying to explore possibly increasing minority ownership or leadership or in Major League Baseball. And then really seriously, way later on down the list, it was, and I don't feel it's safe for us to do this, to be healthy. And I have, I think he said his wife is pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And
He's like 4 kids or something.
Yeah. I mean, so it was very well written. Like it's hard to argue his points. You can't really argue it's very well done. And, I applaud him for that. I think that stating his reasoning in such a powerful and consumable way that people can just look at and read, and it's not, full of jargon. It's here's why I'm not playing.
Yeah.
It was very well written. And I, as a Brewers fan, diehard, I have very much disliked Ian Desmond over the years because he has not been kind to my team. But I really found a new respect for him after reading his post.
So I can't imagine how any sport thinks they're going to play. I think the NBA's plan is the only one that's possible. You're basically quarantining the entire league. If you can do that, okay. But you can't do that for football.
Rosters are, yeah. Not to mention the roster size too. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You can't do that in the NFL. It's impossible. You can do a hotel for each team. You might need even more than that. So the NBA might be able to pull it off, although they're in Florida, which is like from the set of Outbreak. And I feel like leagues kind of leading us on does a disservice because it doesn't give respect for how serious this thing is. Maybe I'm overreacting.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, again, the fact that people think that this could go unaffected is silly, and they don't. It's not a good look, in my opinion, when we know that this is going to be delayed or canceled, and all along Roger Goodell sitting in his basement saying, "Oh, here we go," So it's just optically, it's not good.
They're also saying they want fans in the stands in September. James, comment.
Yeah, this is not the Patreon one, so I can't say what I want to say. It's asinine. It's absolutely okay, unless you have like less than 100 people in a stadium full of 78,000. How can you? And yes, they can sign all little waivers they want, absolving the league and the team from any liability. Okay, fine. But when, and it will happen at some point, you would think, when somebody goes home after a football game and ends up 2 weeks later dead, or their grandma ends up dead, or whatever, talk about bad optics. Like, how as a league, how can the supporting that is just so stupid. And it's just mind-boggling to me.
The only way that the NFL is going to have fans in the stadium is if they oscillate. Get it? So
that was a quality fan show. I like that.
It took Chris like a month and a half, but that's good. I like it. Yeah, I mean, James, you're right. It's silly to. You can't do it. Like, I don't know. I've like run out of words to say because it's so crazy to me that
we're still thinking about it.
People just think it's normal. Like people think that coronavirus has gone away because government said, because they were getting pressure to lift, and they did, and it's not going away. It's getting worse. Like, it's just.
And the fall is going to be a mess because then they're going to try to get kids to go back to school in some districts, and in the districts where they can't go back to school and the parents are going to work, then what happens? It is a mess, and there's no plan. And this is serious. 135,000 people are dead. It's serious, but we're talking about
recording like record high cases daily, and there's already 100. Like, it's just.
Well, and then, you have the NFL talking about playing in the fall with fans in the stands, which means they're going to sell tickets in those markets where they don't sell them out, with season tickets. Go ahead, Kevin.
Chris, I had a thought, and I know you said we were going to talk about it later, the waivers. Are we going to talk about that later, or can we?
No,
like,
I can't.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Since you're my primitive caveman mind can't handle it, but as a lawyer, I'm sure you understand this. The waiver. If I sign a waiver, okay, great. Like even if the waiver is worthless and I don't do anything because I signed a waiver, what about the person that I infect that didn't sign a waiver? Like, can't they then sue the NFL?
No, probably not. I mean, it would be tough.
But the NFL, like willingly and knowingly putting people in this, like, I don't know.
Here's is the waiver enforceable? Maybe not. It might be valid. It might not be. There are some laws that will say even a waiver of liability doesn't matter in this case. For instance, I'll bet you guys didn't know this. New Jersey has a roller skating rink law that governs liability. Basically, it says if you inspect the skates, you inspect the floor, you make sure everything's in good repair. If you do that, the roller skaters assume the risk, right? But if you don't do that, then you may have to pay them. You may be liable, even if they sign a waiver. So it says it right there in the law. I think first of all, it's garbage to have people sign a waiver to go a game. And if I were I'm a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer if you're watching or listening, but I would never sign that waiver because if that's valid, what the heck are they going to do to try to prevent the disease? Nothing. And to have people in a stadium, and then what it does to a town, if they did that, you see how you have these like explosions of the disease in certain areas after spring break, after parties, after all the crap that's going on. Imagine what it's going to be like for the towns surrounding the stadium in the next few weeks after each game. Right, you're going to have these huge explosions of the virus every time. It's just going to happen because you're putting 65,000 people in a stadium together. Or else, what are you going to do? Sell one ticket per section?
Let's see here. You're sitting in section Carl. That's it. Yep, you're in Carl. Enjoy the game, Carl.
That's a hot section.
Carl. Maybe I'm being a little, but. I think it's absurd to try to pretend they're going to have fans in the stands.
It's just when you mentioned that, I just thought to myself, okay, Lambeau Field, right? 78,000 people. Say they're restricted to half. Okay, I don't know how they would do that. I don't know how they'd.
Doesn't matter. You know what? Guess what? They're going to tailgate. Yeah. Oh, you're going to say no tailgating? They'll find a way. They're going to tailgate.
So okay, just for chagrins, let's say half. So 35,000 people show up for this game. So those 35,000 people then leave. Now, I'm fairly certain that not everybody that goes to a Green Bay Packers game is from the city of Green Bay. I'm fairly certain that people come from all over. So me, for instance, I get tickets to go to a game. I go up, I watch the game. I come back. I live 200 some odd miles away from Lambeau Field. I'm not Eric Upton. I don't have it down to the decimal, but I get sick. I get corona, and I can only trace it back to there because whatever. So that means people down 200 miles away from Lambeau Field are now going to be exposed to the virus that I caught 200 up there, and multiply that by 34,000 people. I mean, look, it's just stupid.
If they were at least pretending that they were going to do something where teams were somewhat isolated and there were no fans, maybe they did like a hub system, or they could play every day of the week and have a rotating schedule, but only play out of 3 or 4 stadiums. If they had a plan like that, I would at least feel like, all right, that I can accept. But there's no plan like that. That's not what it is. They just announced, or actually it was leaked, I don't think it was announced, that weeks 1 and 4 of the preseason will be the games to be lost if they lose any games.
Oh, yeah.
If they lose any preseason.
But then they came out later and said, oh, and by the way, we're we are extending, or we're delaying camp by like a certain amount of time. So honestly, I think, and most of the pundits that I looked at Twitter agreed there's not going to be a preseason. At least there's just not.
Right. No, if they play meaningless football games and put people at risk, that's insanity.
Yeah, it's a joke. Yeah.
We always bitch about how, Aaron Rodgers shouldn't play in the preseason because we don't want him to break his collarbone or whatever. But this virus is going on, and let's play the
That's another
Browns.
thing. There will be NFL players who opt not to play, and then Kevin, I think the problem here is you're putting your players in a position where they have to say yes or no.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about people who like have to do a job. We're talking about people who work in the stadiums who have to do a job. Like, it's not just a given that because these people are employed, they're going to go to work every day and do this, because they have the choice to not do that. And you see that in baseball. And I think football is a little bit, I mean, if you're a big, giant, fat guy on the offensive line, you're probably a little bit more at risk than, the backup punter. So I don't think it's a good idea. Like, it's just silly because you're going to get a lot of who's gonna play? Are like stars going to play because they've already got their money?
I mean,
like Ezekiel Elliott has the stupid coronavirus. He's not playing.
I don't know what to tell you. I think there are people that are going to sit out. There are players that will sit out. There are players that will think the risk is not like it. And then fans will turn on them and blah, blah, blah. But then other players will be needling. So people will be pissed no matter what.
You know what?
Well, that's
you know
for
what?
sure.
You just made a case to me to kind of want it to happen now because I want to see that.
You just made a case for an episode title.
I did.
I don't even know what it was. You'll have to remind me afterwards. All right. So what else is happening in sports? Like, do you think baseball, Kevin? Do you think baseball is really going to happen? I don't care if it's on this timeline, but do you think they're going to play it all?
No, I don't. I don't think. I mean, I don't. I don't think it's going to finish if it starts.
Right. James, what do you think?
I mean, yeah.
If you'd have asked me this a week ago, I would have said yes.
Right.
Because they had just gotten the agreement done and things seemed to be looking okay. But as we sit here tonight, with the way that the cases are just are skyrocketing, I can't envision a scenario.
Where were they planning on playing?
I believe it at all the home stadiums. They were playing the normal stadiums.
The Orioles reported today for coronavirus testing and on-field training starts tomorrow.
Right. But what they did was they made the schedule so that there's minimal travel. So you're only playing teams in your division. So like the Brewers would only have to go to St. Louis and Chicago and Pittsburgh and so they tried to minimize that way. But even then,
it doesn't matter once you get your chartered plane in the air. The city's a city, I feel like.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, what? I guess it's just avoiding the hot spots. I would be because if the Brewers were scheduled to go play the Marlins or something, and I were a Brewer, I'd be like, I got appendicitis, can't go. Sorry.
Yeah.
But you can't because then you'd have to wait 2 weeks to come back. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just leave and come back. You leave, and it's like a bad episode of, I don't know, Big Brother. Is it like that?
Not at all. But I love that.
You get what I'm saying, though. You get the idea.
You heard something about a study about college football. If college football were to happen this season.
Yeah, like basically, if college football were to happen, then there would be an estimated 3 to 7 player deaths due to COVID throughout the course of the season.
And that's just deaths. That's not infections.
Right. Correct. And that was and that is like that's like a best case scenario type of deal.
Wow. I mean, there's no way they can have college football.
No, I mean, okay, so 3 to 7 healthy young, men who work out and are actually fit human beings. What about the 78-year-old 400-pound offensive line coaches?
I think the offensive lineman. I was like, I don't think that happens in college. Very rare 78-year-old offensive lineman.
I'm just in my brain. I don't know if you guys watched Hard Knocks the year that Cleveland had it, but their offensive line coach was just a giant walrus man, and I can't remember his name. And in my brain, that's what I was picturing. But imagine,
chat. He says, I think baseball will happen. They'll make exceptions to shut down policies. I think, what are they going to shut down?
It's pollicles.
No, what does he mean?
It's pollicles. Yeah, he's
cliffhanger.
Yeah.
They'll shut down policies. It says policies.
It says, yeah. Poil size, yeah.
You just add to your comment in the chat so I understand what you mean. They'll have exceptions to shut down policies.
But popsicles? But they're not going to sell popsicles because people lick those. And then there you go, exposure. Boom. I solved it.
Boom, problem solved. Good, we can move on then.
I speak fluent Hamblin.
Oh God Almighty! All right, let's go to break. But before we do, we have some things and people to talk about. One, gentlemen, did you know that we have a new patron?
Shut your face.
Well, I looked at the thing, so I did.
Oh,
I was just playing along. I did.
Put it on the fourth wall.
I was playing the no, I gotcha.
Michael James Crowder is our new patron, and I enjoy a patron with a formal 3-name name. First, middle,
sounds
last.
Very regal.
But I think you guys know it was a very generous patron donation. But where Mr. Crowder gets his money, Michael James Crowder, he's a seafood soup company. Michael James Crowder Chowder, in case you were wondering.
I thought he also made. I thought he also had talc products.
He does. That would be. You want the Michael James Crowder powder?
Ah, gotcha.
Also, he sells hearing aids.
God, you stole it.
Michael James Crowder louder.
He goes to 11.
You're aware of? And so, thank you, Michael James Crowder. We couldn't be prouder.
Let's say it a little louder. No.
Who wants chowder?
We have our OG patrons. We also want to thank tonight. Kevin, that's your job. Please thank them.
That is. All right. So we have several OG patrons that I'd like to, the 4th of July here is our theme because obviously it's the 4th of July show, as you can tell by my patriotic wear. Okay, Scott Neer. Scott won a 4th of July social distance hot dog eating contest. He ate 12 6-foot hot dogs in 3 minutes. That's a lot of hot dogs.
What?
12 6-foot hot dogs in 3 minutes. It was a social distancing. So that's why it was.
Where do you buy a
hot dog? That's pretty impressive.
Only 2 packs, James. 12 6.
You have to get those custom made, right?
Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. And the buns are custom made too. All right, Jason Hicks. Jason spent his entire stimulus check on fireworks in regions where they're considered illegal. So if you live in an area where illegal fireworks are being shot off, Jason is probably to blame. He's essentially the George Soros of illegal firework displays. Heard it here first.
I actually believe that one.
Milo Meadsong. Milo is famous for his 4th of July potato salad. What makes Milo's dish so special is that each batch has a worm at the bottom, and the person to scoop up the last plate of potato salad has to eat the worm. Also, and this is an interesting fact, it's the highest proof potato salad in North America. Chris Korsmo. It was Chris's idea to use red, white, and blue for the 4th of July parades. So that was a really good idea. Nice job, Chris. Wow. Jeff Augustine.
It was a good idea.
Jeff as the
family, James.
I mean, we all know that James's lineage is weak at best.
Oh.
All right, Jeff. Jeff is as the inventor of August, petitioned the founding fathers to delay the signing of Declaration of Independence for a month, but they declined because they wanted to make sure that they could get to that guns thing faster, so everybody could get guns faster. And finally, James Hamblin, he was voted the biggest Yankee Doodle dandy in high school. So congratulations, James, and congratulations to all of our OGs who we respect and love very much. Except for,
all right,
we don't even say him, presumably. Yeah. Gus. Let's just call him Gus. I don't either.
I don't know what you're talking about. All right, we're going to take a break because we need one. When we come back, we'll talk about we'll talk about all sorts of stuff when we come back. We got Packers news when we come back. That's soon. Oh, no, that's the wrong button.
Oh, geez, what are we doing here?
This is the right button. Oh, God. I got to go.
Much better.
Without any additional cost to you? Well, if you use Amazon, and let's face it, who doesn't? You can go through our Amazon affiliate link, and we'll get a small portion of the proceeds. You pay nothing extra, and you still get your awesome stuff delivered in like 2 days. So go to www.titletownsoundoff.com/Amazon and just order like you normally would, and you help the show. That's www.titletownsoundoff.com/Amazon. Happy shopping.
If you would like to support the show and help others find it, give us a review and a rating. Go to Apple Podcasts and write something nice and give us 5 stars. Thanks.
Welcome back, Packers fans, to episode 238 of the Titletown Sound podcast. I'm your host, and that's James. He's shaping, it looks like. Kevin back just in time. James,
I have a tuft, and I don't know where it came from, but it's bothering me.
Patron James Hamblin will ask you something. He says, "Dandy?" ? What are you trying to say?
That you are very awesome. I don't know if you know this or not, James, but I use very frequently 1800s and 1700s slang. So, when I say you're basically what I'm saying is badass. That's basically what dandy was. Yankee Doodle badass. That's essentially what this song we translated to.
It's really all Hamblin's fault for wearing that feather in his hat.
Well, I'm calling it. We had all sorts of problems with that. All right, we have our Hall of Fame patrons. And James, why don't you tell us all about these amazing people?
Why don't I? All right, we have Paul Goldsack, the man I affectionately call the Terp, Kyle Turpinning, DJ Lightfoot, and Will Zine Savage. Hope this month off has found all of you well. I know that over this month that we haven't been on the podcast, they started their own rival podcast. But Yeah, so I don't know. I think that means that we have to be their patrons now.
I'll check on the law.
Yeah,
But
you're the lawyer. Figure that out.
If you want to leave a donation, you can go to patreon.com/TTSO and you'll get the bonus show. We didn't do a bonus show last month, but we also didn't do regular shows that we charge anybody for. So hopefully that's a break even. But we do have a plan for a bonus show coming up very soon. And I think you'll like it. And it might be like 2 hours long, depending on how it goes. All right, we've got some news stories, Kevin, to cover. Are you ready for that?
I got to be honest with you. I got the news stories. I'm just going to go with the order that I have and hope that they match the order you guys have.
All right, that sounds good to me.
Spanning the globe to bring you all of the news that's fit to podcast. It's Kevin Christopher.
I mean, it's not like we send out a Google Doc with the entire lineup of the show like 2 days before. But
Well,
anyway,
so when I put together when I did my headlines, it was before when we thought we were going to record earlier. So if you changed it since then, then I haven't. Yep.
Okay, here we go. Breaking news, I think, is the right. Which one do I press, guys? I always have
It's
this
the opposite one. Yeah.
No, now I'm overthinking it, so I'm double opposite. You know what I mean?
Peek behind the curtain. Yeah. What's the worst that could happen? That other.
I just got
NFL approves plan to cover the first 8 to 10 rows. Problem solved. Coronavirus over. I wasn't sure.
This feeds right into what we were talking about. The NFL has told teams that they are permitted to cover the first 8 to 10 rows, or that they should, and that they can sell advertising on that first 8 to 10 rows. The reasoning is, and get this, I swear this is the reasoning, so that the players are more further removed from the unwashed masses in the stands.
Or you could just remove the masses.
When I heard this story first, when I first heard the story, I thought for sure what they meant was there will be no fans in the stands, and because there's no fans, you can sell advertising on the stands. That's what I thought they meant. That's reasonable. James, this is effing ridiculous.
Here's what I would do is I agree with you, first of all, but here's what I would do. Is there a rule that these cannot be green screens? Because I would put up green screens. I would just charge randos like $300 to put up whatever the hell they want.
Oh.
So like, Aaron Rodgers is like getting ready to take a snap, and and then
you could be all of a sudden meeting. They could show the game in a Zoom meeting, and then your camera would be on the green screen. And if you show genitals, you'll be arrested. They could do that.
They've done that, and they've done that for European games. Like they'll have like Zoom screens up in the corners of the field, and like in each one there's like a big there's one focused fan and 25 other ones, and it's really, I mean, that's kind of cool. But like I think you're right. Yeah. The idea the genitals might be an issue. Let's be honest, especially in America where we love to show our genitals on the internet. Just visit my website.
You're immediately. What are my brown starfish comment? Episode 238, brown.
I heard brown star. I got that. Yeah.
The fact that they think they're going to have fans, and they're not. This is not a joke. Like they really believe they're going to fill these stadiums, but except for the first 6 to 8 rows, because we wouldn't want the fans coughing on the players. The rosters are 45 men. Like, are they just in denial? Do they really know what's going to happen, James? That's my question. That's what I want to know. Do they really know there's not going to be a season, but they're just bull-assing us? Or do they really think they're going to?
There's a part of me that wants to be believe in the goodness of people and the goodness of human hearts and be like, maybe they're just, they're planning as if there's going to be a season while, knowing that there probably won't be, but at least if there is, they have and there's another part of me that's like, these are billionaires. And as Kevin said earlier, most of them are brown starfish and will be, they want their money. And So I honestly think that they are planning on. They really do think that at some point this fall they're going to roll out a full NFL product minus 6 to 8 rows of green screen genitals.
Because I'm starting to think this was a revelation that I had week 1 when I went to college.
Okay. Oh,
and I'm starting to have that same revelation now. You buy what?
Cookie Crisp.
Quality cereal.
We are on a significant delay for some reason. So, guys, bear with us if you're listening. I don't know why the vendor's having this issue, but we'll hopefully get it a little bit better next week. So that's why you hear the delay. But go ahead.
I don't know. What was I talking about? Besides,
I don't remember.
When I went to college, right?
No, yeah, when you went to college.
So when I went to college, about a week, 10 days in of classes, I realized a lot of these people here are not very smart.
Right.
And as I get older, I'm just starting to think maybe these people just aren't very smart. Because regardless of what they think the outcome is going to be, they don't look very smart right now. Because they're just not handling it the right way. They're just not being realistic about it, I feel. And I feel like it's silly to just to pretend that like covering up 8 to 10 rows of seats is going to do jack.
Right.
And thank you, Jack, for being a patron.
Yeah, I think they're kidding themselves. And if things had been done right, we would have a season of some sort. It would probably start in, October and start without fans. But by the time you got to December and January, you could probably have fans in the stadiums. But this wasn't handled correctly, so that's not going to happen. And this is the price we pay. And to think that they're going to sell advertising, I mean, I don't even know if I want a season at this point. I feel bad saying that.
I have to say, I really kind of want there to be genitals. I've kind of bought in 100% on this whole idea of
you thinking about the Zoom meetings with genitals the whole time.
I have been ever since we brought it up.
James. There's a lot of places on the internet that are Zoom-like where you can find genitals. Maybe we can talk about this offline after the recording.
There has not been a delay. It's just been me pausing to think about the Zoom genitals.
Episode 238, Zoom genitals.
We've gone through 4 episode titles in this.
I think that's
a keeper, though.
Episode 238, Zoom genitals. All right, I think we beat the crap out of that story. What do you think?
We kicked that in the Zoom genitals one too many times.
All right, next story.
All right. Good announces. This is fine. No change to training camp start dates. Although that changed.
No, it didn't. Not really. I mean, I guess the point is the same.
Who cares? Yeah.
I just love the muttering.
Was swearing that training camp was going to start on time. There would be no change to anything. And then eventually it did have to be pushed back. But I don't have much more to add to this because this is more of the same. This is more of pretending that something is not going on. Like, as an example, Disney parks are scheduled to open on like the 11th of July. I don't think they'll open because I think they give a damn about their guests. If the NFL opens, irresponsible.
And plus, a lot of the cast members have signed are signing strike proposals because they don't want to go back. It's hard. I don't know if they can open without workers.
I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of how the extra unemployment money works, but I feel like as a business, if you've got people who are unemployed right now and making that money, you let them make that extra money for as long as possible. I mean, I know everybody's situation is different, but I know a lot of those lower paying jobs, you actually end up making more money now on unemployment with that extra bonus. So I think it makes sense to keep them on that as long as possible because, first of all, you just had your worst day ever in terms of new cases. And second of all, like that's why those programs are in place to keep people safe and keep them home so that they don't get sick, not because they don't want to work, because they do actually. Most people actually do want to work. Yeah. So
absolutely. That program is to give you a reason and the ability to stay home and stay safe. Anyway, if the NFL has fans in seats in September, either Bill Gates has vaccinated and microchipped all of us by then, or they just everybody says F it, if I die, I die. There's no in between.
No.
You ready for the next story, Kev?
Yes. Brett's words go far in the Kaepernick discussion.
Brett Favre was interviewed with TMZ. By the way, as an attorney, for the first time this week, someone called my office from TMZ because of one of the cases that an associate is handling. But anyway, Favre was interviewed with TMZ, and he says that Colin Kaepernick deserves hero status, and it's something that will be recognized originally. When he first had that Nike ad, James, people mocked him. I mean, so a lot of people support him, but a lot of people mocked him. And I think the events of the last month have changed a lot of minds on Colin Kaepernick.
I agree, and I mean I've seen it firsthand. People that I know personally in my life that have always been, that son of a bitch, blah, 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 kneeling, and now they're like, oh, okay, now I understand. I might not still, I might not like agree or like that what they're kneeling during the national anthem, but I understand it now, but unfortunately, I also know a far more number of people who are still, tying it into the flag. So, I think, first of all, when I read that, I almost fell out of my chair because it's Brett Favre. Like,
so, hold on, we didn't say
he's not.
He goes further. He talks about. He says he's helped his cause tremendously and is deserving of much praise and respect. It's not easy for a guy his age, black or white, Hispanic, whatever, to stop something that you've always dreamed of doing and put it on hold, maybe forever, for something that you believe in. He was mocked when that Nike ad came out, Kevin, but he did. He wants to play football, and he gave that up because he believes in this cause. He could have rolled over.
Yeah. I mean, I think what we're seeing now is, at least in some level, the discussion that he wanted to create when he first took a knee, right? Like, finally, people like Drew Brees, like people like him are recognizing that and commenting and acknowledging what it is truly about. I still think that,
but Drew Brees is a garbage human being. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I still think that people who believe what they want to believe are going to believe. They're going to turn to the next person who has their opinion anyway. Then they're going to say, now Drew Brees is the same as Colin Kaepernick to them, just because they don't agree with him. It has nothing to do with anything other than, they feel threatened by something new and that they don't understand, and they don't agree with them, so they're going to get defensive about it.
And Favre, again, I thought this was remarkable that this was Brett Favre, that he has this progressive view, even if he didn't believe it. And I think he's sincere. The fact that he even said this boggles my mind. And then he also said, I can only think of, off the top of my head, Pat Tillman is another guy who did something similar. We regard him as a hero, so I'd assume that hero status will be stamped with Kaepernick as well. That James, is a big statement, especially from somebody from Mississippi. And I mean that with all due respect.
Well, I mean, Brett Favre, I mean, I don't think it's a secret that Brett Favre has, is a pretty conservative fella, and and other, so when he and what happened is when he said that, immediately the people who couldn't see the nuances and read into that anymore than face value said, oh, well, Brett Favre is saying that Colin Kaepernick did the same thing as Pat Tillman did.
Right.
That's so what a jackass, screw Brett Favre, blah, blah, blah. And that's not what Brett Favre is saying. What Brett Favre is saying is, Pat Tillman, 9/11 happened. Pat Tillman said, you know what? Football, great, but I want to go fight for my country and he went and he did, and he died. That, yeah. Yes, hero status. The man, absolutely. Colin Kaepernick saw social injustices that he has probably seen his whole entire life. I'm sure he has. And decided, you know what? Enough is enough. I have a platform. I'm going to use it. And knowing full well that using that platform was going to result in him being, blackballed or blacklisted from the league. Colin Kaepernick didn't die. Colin Kaepernick still has money, I'm sure. But what Colin Kaepernick has done is raised awareness and brought so many people into this issue that would not have necessarily done so otherwise. And I'm sure there's been a lot of eyes open to the struggles and the racism and the segregation that still exists in this country. And for Brett Favre, of all people, to recognize that and see that to me, that's hope. That gives me a lot of hope, because if Brett Favre can see that, then that means,
the hell's Brett Favre doing here?
He double bagged it.
Have you seen my baseball? If Brett Favre can see it and can recognize it, then anybody can. And it really, yeah. I mean, it's a big deal. And I don't know. I also know that Pat Tillman's widow and his entire family wants people to stop using him as a crutch for these things. But I think Favre had a point.
I lost James for a second. James, are you guys seeing a big green blob in the middle? I mean, not James. That's not me describing you, but the camera. There you go.
All my colors look normal.
That hurt.
No, there was a little green blob. It wasn't. I didn't mean you.
I've been working on my tan.
I just thought you had a light directly pointed at you. That's all.
Jesus. All right. Do you have our last story, Kevin?
Oh, do we have another story? Headline? No, I did not get it.
We do. I'll send you in the chat.
Oh, so
does that mean I have to try it?
I can do it if you want to send it to me, or you can do it. Let's hear you do it. I want to hear your old-timey voice.
All right. All right.
Yeah, let's... See, it's not as easy as it looks.
It's not. And I made this one up.
Zoom
I don't remember. Oh, it's awful. It's awful. All right, here we go. Who doesn't like guaranteed love?
Very nice. It was. You got a nice mix of pervy in there too.
Yeah, that was very yell out the side window of a windowless white van. How can you yell out a window if it's windowless?
You said yell out the window of a windowless.
Well, he meant the front window and it busted out.
The windshield.
I am a blob. That's really all I am. Is a big green blob.
Oh, stop. You are not.
No, my brain is at least.
Well, that's fair. All right. So James, fill us in on this story, because neither of us did any work.
I don't have the exact numbers, but the Packers went ahead and signed. They signed both Jordan Love and A.J. Dillon yesterday. And they gave Jordan Love the most guaranteed money of any draft pick in his spot 26 in the history of since they started with the rookie guarantee contracts. It's something around a little over 12 million, I forget, with like a $6 million signing bonus. And at first, when I
Smart.
first read that, when I first read that, I was like, holy crap, Aaron Rodgers is going to be like pissed and it's going to be terrible. And then I started doing some research, and it's been like, apparently the amount of money that has been given to draft picks in that area has become closer and closer and closer. And like literally it's like $1.5 million more than number 24. So really, from what I understand, it was going to happen eventually. And they just rushed it because he's a quarterback. So, I don't think there's as much to read into it as what's that?
Okay. Initially, you thought this was a big deal because there's a lot of guaranteed money, and we thought, wow, this signifies their investment. But you think this is really more of a natural progression?
I do, and what it says to me is that they're not screwing around with this kid. They are 100% committed to him being the next guy, because he's not going to play unless there's an injury for at least 3 years. So they're going to be paying him. They're going to be paying him a lot of money, relatively speaking, to learn, basically.
Yeah,
but you know what I like about it is that maybe it gets you a hometown discount next time around. You still good seed, you build a good relationship, and you've got like you spend a little bit more money now, but hopefully maybe in the future you can spend a little bit less. And I mean,
it's a big danger that you're going to sign this guy. You're going to play with him, and he's going to refuse to re-sign. Then you're toast. So they're going to have to re-sign him in his fourth year, right?
Yeah,
that's when they're going to give him. They're going to give him his big contract. So what does that mean? There's 2 years left for Rodgers? Because you're going to re-sign him with a huge contract. I mean, a huge contract like during his rookie playing year, even though he's been on the roster.
I mean, I think Rodgers has at least 3 years.
I do too.
With his contract, he has to really. And then after that, who knows at this point?
Yeah. All right. I think that's enough for that story, and we're over time. So before we get out of here, Kevin, anything you want to say to our wonderful listeners and/or viewers?
No, I don't have anything that I want to say.
James, how about you before we get out of here?
Serving platter? Shoot, man. Thank you guys for sticking with us and waiting us out for this month. Again, as we said earlier in the show, this wasn't like us, deciding not to record because we didn't want to address the issue. It was us understanding and feeling like it was not our time. It was not our place to really speak. So thank you guys once again. I'm trying to think. I'm going to be selfish for 30 seconds. Here. I since March 1st have been on a fairly regimented eating plan. Some people call it a diet.
Yep.
I have lost. The scale says I have lost 65 pounds. Now, that's what the scale says. I think it's lying to me because I've been looking at myself for the last hour, and I'm like, where the hell did I lose it from?
The camera adds 65 pounds, James.
So you're breaking.
You're good, Jay.
What I want to say to people is this: you can do it. Like, it's, if you feel bad about something that's going on, if you don't feel healthy mentally, physically, spiritually, however, you can do it. I have, it's been hard as hell, man, but the success is there. And you guys, if any of you need anything, if you guys feel like you need a little whatever, let me know. Hit me up, any of you, because it can happen. Now, that being said, if you have made it an hour and Jesus Lord, 5 minutes into this thing, tweet us the word. Can
I offer a word?
Offer it.
Scranton.
God, I love The Office. Okay, Scranton. Yes.
So real quick, before we get out of here, tomorrow, since we haven't been able to go on any vacations, and in fact, I should be on a plane right now to Disneyland, not World, but Land. But because of that, we're taking a little overnight trip to, I swear to you, Scranton, Pennsylvania, to visit Lake Wallenpaupack, Lake Scranton, the Anthracite Museum. We're going to the what's the name of the mall? Steamtown Mall, Cooper's, and of course we're going to have a slice at Alfredo's Pizza Cafe. Not Pizza by Alfredo. That's Circle of God.
I gotta butt in here, and I have to ask: what do you purchase at the Steamtown Mall?
It is merely a mall. There's no steamers available. Pittsburgh or otherwise.
Is it a Najee Davenport LLC enterprise?
It's not. All right, we're way over time. So I'll report back on my trip to Scranton. Who the hell takes a trip to Scranton?
Chris, I dare you to do a vlog of you taking a dump in a hamper at the Steamtown Mall.
I'm not going to do that.
I double dog dare you. Now you have to do it.
Worth a shot.
I'm not going to do that. All right, guys, let's get out of here. How do I press the right button this time? Hey, what happened? Oops, no, I did that on purpose.
R.I.P. Fred.
The preceding podcast was a production of Productions Institute, LLC. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved. Don't steal our crap.